Browns are doing everything possible to help Shedeur Sanders.
This draft proved the Browns are obsessed with Shedeur Sanders, and not in a quiet way either. They might not come out and say it directly, they might not stand at a podium and announce this whole thing is about Shedeur, but just look at what they actually did. Offensive tackle early, wide receiver help, more offensive line depth, more weapons, more competition, more pieces around the quarterback room. At some point, you stop calling that coincidence and start calling it a plan. And Cleveland's plan looks very clear right now. They are trying to make sure Shedeur has every possible chance to become the guy.
Number one, Fano, really good offensive lineman. I studied his tape because I was trying to figure out just how much protection can he add. Really light on his feet, but also has like clubs for hands. When he gets his hands on you.
Here's the part nobody is talking about. The Browns didn't draft like a team that is ignoring its young quarterback. They drafted like a team that knows exactly where the pressure is. Spencer Fano in the first round is not just an offensive line pick. That is protection. That is infrastructure. That is the Browns saying, whoever is under center, but especially if it is Shedeur, we are not letting this offense get wrecked before the play even develops. And when you remember how many quarterback questions Cleveland has had, that kind of pick tells you they are finally trying to build the right way.
You're dead. Beyond that, they said, let's address the wide receiver position with Concepcion in Boston. Here's why I love that. Competition breeds excellence. With all due respect, we don't know who's going to be the better player. I would think it's Concepcion. I don't love Boston's game. When I mean by I don't love his game, I just simply mean like he doesn't look special to me.
Then they come back with Concepcion and Denzel Boston, and now the message gets even louder. You don't take two receivers that early unless you know your offense needs juice. You don't add that kind of talent unless you are trying to help the quarterback. And Concepcion already basically told you the Shedeur connection is real. He said when he entered the transfer portal, he went down to Colorado, met Shedeur, and called him a great guy and a great leader. Then he said he cannot wait to build that relationship and build that connection. That is not random. That is a young receiver walking into Cleveland already thinking about chemistry with Shedeur Sanders. This is where it gets dangerous, because once the Browns start stacking players who fit around Shedeur, the quarterback battle starts feeling less like a mystery and more like a direction. Fano gives him protection, Concepcion gives him quickness, slot ability, and gadget potential. Boston gives him hands, size, and outside receiver upside. Add that to what the Browns did last year with Harold Fannin, Carson Shalvasinger, Quinshawn Judkins, Mason Graham, and Shedeur himself, and suddenly you can see the foundation forming. Cleveland is not just collecting names. They are stacking young talent that can grow together. And that is why this draft feels different. The Browns have had talented rosters before, but this feels more intentional. They didn't just throw picks at random needs. They attacked the exact areas that help a quarterback survive and develop. Offensive line and wide receiver. That is the checklist. If you believe in Shedeur, you protect him and give him targets. If you don't believe in him, you probably draft differently. You probably chase another quarterback early. You probably avoid building the offense around his timeline. But the Browns didn't do that. They built the runway.
I love their draft, man. Spencer Fano is going to be a top left tackle. First 2 years, he'll be a top 5 left tackle. He's that good.
Yep.
So athletic, big as hell.
Here's the part nobody is talking about. Spencer Fano might be the most important pick of the whole draft for Shedeur's future. People love receiver picks because they're fun, but a left tackle changes everything. Fano is light on his feet, strong, and when he gets his hands on you, it is basically over. He can play both sides. He was viewed by some as the best offensive lineman in college football, and if he becomes a top left tackle in his first couple years, then the Browns just gave their quarterback something every young passer needs, a real blindside protector. And that matters because Shedeur's game is built on timing, accuracy, rhythm, and confidence in the pocket. You don't want him running for his life every snap. You want him comfortable. You want him reading the field. You want him throwing on time. You want him building chemistry with receivers who can separate and catch the ball. So when the Browns take Fano, then come back with multiple receivers, that is not just good roster building. That is Shedeur-friendly roster building. This is where young teams usually make a mistake. They draft the quarterback and then act like the job is done. It is not. The job starts after you get the quarterback. You have to build the environment. You have to create the support system. You have to give him protection, playmakers, coaching, and patience. The Browns have failed quarterbacks before because the situation around them was never clean enough. This time, they are at least trying to remove the excuses before the season even starts.
Obviously, the Browns were the team that famously got Terrell Pryor to have a 1,000-yard season. Is this a hey, we got our guy in Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston that do two different things? Maybe why not take a risk on a guy later on and see if he can potentially play the wide receiver position, or do you think he's going to play quarterback?
And let's talk about the receivers, because this is where it gets really interesting. Casey Concepcion feels like a player who can be moved around, used in space, and given easy touches. He is not just a traditional outside receiver. He can be the slot guy, the gadget guy, the motion guy, the player who helps the quarterback get into rhythm. That is huge for Shedeur. Young quarterbacks need layups. They need quick completions. They need receivers who can turn simple throws into real yards. Concepcion can be that kind of piece. Denzel Boston is different. He might not look as flashy to everybody, but the hands are serious, and sometimes that's exactly what a quarterback needs. A guy who catches the ball clean, wins contested moments, and gives you trust on third down. Maybe he's not the most electric player in the class. Maybe he does not jump off the screen like some others, but if he gets to the NFL and his hands translate, he could become one of those receivers quarterbacks love because he's where he's supposed to be and he finishes plays. Here's the part nobody is talking about. Competition breeds excellence, and the Browns just turned up the heat on everybody in that receiver room. Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, the young guys, the rookies, everybody has to feel it now. You bring in Concepcion and Boston and suddenly nobody gets handed targets. Nobody gets comfortable. Everybody has to prove they deserve a role. That helps Shedeur too, because a hungry receiver room is a dangerous receiver room. Guys are going to fight for reps, fight for chemistry, and fight to become the quarterback's favorite target.
But all of a sudden, you put Taylor Green. I'm putting Taylor Green in the red zone. I'm putting Taylor Green in on 3rd and 3, on 3rd and 4. I'm putting him in on 3rd and 2. He might mess around, run QB power. He might run QB sweep, or he might fake the QB power, run a couple slant routes.
Now, the Taylor Green pick in the 6th round is where people got confused, because yes, the Browns did take another quarterback, but even that pick feels more like offensive creativity than a real threat to Shedeur. Green is 6'6", around 230 plus pounds, and can absolutely move. He is a big, fast, explosive athlete. His throwing motion might be different, and maybe he is not the cleanest traditional quarterback, but that is not necessarily why you take him. You take him because he gives Todd Monken another toy. This is where it gets dangerous, because Monken came from systems where the quarterback run game mattered. QB power, QB sweep, counters, red zone packages, 3rd and short wrinkles, all of that is already in his bag. Shedeur is not that kind of runner. Deshaun Watson, especially coming off injuries, is not someone you want exposing that way either. But Taylor Green, you can put him in on 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, red zone snaps, and suddenly the defense has to think. Is it QB power? Is it a fake? Is it a slant behind it? Is it a double pass if he lines up wide? That is why the pick makes sense. And if Green eventually becomes more of a Taysom Hill type weapon, then that's even more useful. The Saints got way more out of Taysom Hill than a lot of people expected because they gave him a role. Green could do the same kind of thing in Cleveland if the staff is creative. Maybe he plays quarterback in packages. Maybe he lines up at receiver. Maybe he gives you 5 to 7 plays a game that force defenses to prepare for something weird. That does not take away from Shedeur. If anything, it helps the offense become harder to defend. Here's the part nobody is talking about. Drafting Green late actually shows the Browns are not trying to replace Shedeur, they're trying to expand the offense around him. If they wanted to challenge Shedeur with a real quarterback investment, they would have done it early. They did not. They used premium picks on protection and weapons. Then they took a late athletic project who can create package value. That is not a threat. That is a tool. And smart offenses use tools. Now zoom out and look at the last 2 drafts together. Spencer Fano, Casey Concepcion, Denzel Boston, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, Mason Graham, Carson Schwessinger, Quinshawn Judkins, Harold Fannin, and Shedeur Sanders. That's a serious young core. And on top of that, they still have significant draft capital in 2027 with a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, multiple 4ths, multiple 5ths, and 7ths. That means Cleveland is not just trying to win one offseason. They're building a pipeline. This is where the legacy angle comes in for Andrew Berry, because a lot of Browns fans were done with him not too long ago. People questioned the picks, people questioned the roster construction, people questioned whether he could finally fix the offense. But after the last 2 drafts, the conversation is changing. Now people are saying Andrew Berry is cooking. Now they're saying he did it again. Now they're looking at the talent stack and realizing the Browns might actually have a real foundation if the quarterback hits. And that last part matters most. Until Cleveland finds the quarterback, the AFC North will always feel like running uphill. That division is too physical, too well coached, and too unforgiving. You can have a great defense, you can have solid weapons, you can have a strong line, but if the quarterback is not right, everything has a ceiling. That's why this draft feels obsessed with Shedeur, because whether they say it or not, the Browns know the whole thing changes if he becomes the guy. If Shedeur hits, Fano becomes the protector, Concepcion becomes the rhythm weapon, Boston becomes the outside target, Judkins becomes the run game balance, Fannin becomes the tight end mismatch, Green becomes the package weapon. Suddenly, Cleveland has an offense with layers. Suddenly, the Browns are not just hoping the defense wins every game. Suddenly, there's an actual offensive identity forming. This is where young quarterbacks usually make a mistake. They try to carry everything alone. Shedeur cannot do that, and the Browns should not ask him to. The best version of this plan is not Shedeur playing hero ball every week. It's Shedeur distributing, trusting the line, using his weapons, getting the ball out, and letting the structure work. That's what a real organization does. It doesn't just ask the quarterback to save the franchise. It builds the franchise in a way that lets the quarterback quarterback grow into the role. And that's why Concepcion's comment matters. When a rookie receiver already talks about wanting to build a connection with Shedeur, that tells you the locker room knows where the energy is. Players are aware. They hear the noise. They see who the fan base is watching. They know Shedeur is not just another name on the roster. And if young offensive players start attaching themselves to his timeline, that becomes a real movement inside the team. So now the question is simple. Did the Browns just have a great draft in general, or did they have a great draft because they're quietly building everything around Shedeur Sanders? Because from where I'm sitting, the evidence is loud. They drafted protection, they drafted receivers, they added offensive line depth, they took a late athletic weapon who can create package plays, they stacked young talent in back-to-back drafts. That's not random. That's obsession with making this offense work.